In October of 2003, a New York man went to a hospital to be treated for wounds from a dog attack, with bite marks on his arm and leg. He told the doctors that it was from a pit bull, but upon examining the wounds, the doctors realized the bite marks were far too big to be from a dog. Now, I want to build a bit more suspense, but as you've already seen the title of this video, you will already know that when the police went to the apartment, they found a tiger, a 425-pound male. The police ended up rappelling down the side of the building and shot the tiger, who was named Ming, with a tranquilizer dart through the window. You might be wondering how this man named Anthony Yates could have a pet tiger on the 5th floor of his Harlem apartment. Well, he bought him from a place in Minnesota that claimed to be a wildlife sanctuary. But like many places across the US claiming to be a wildlife sanctuary, they were kind of the opposite. The sanctuary was eventually shut down as they were alleged to be selling exotic animals like bears, lions, and tigers, as well as selling dead animals. And what happened to Ming, the tiger, after being tranquilized? Well, he spent the rest of his life in Noah's Ark Lost Animal Sanctuary, which thankfully does seem to be an actual good sanctuary. However, as many now know, in a post-Tiger King world, there are a whole lot of captive tigers in the US, and this also comes with some attacks. I think it might be a bit disingenuous to pretend that tiger attacks have only happened by pet tigers or tigers in non-accredited sanctuaries or roadside zoos. I know zoos can be a controversial topic for many animal lovers, and I understand that the idea of a wild animal having to spend its entire life in captivity isn't super ideal, but there is an argument to be made that some zoos have some benefits to conservation. The organization Association of Zoos and Aquariums works with many zoos to help conservation efforts, such as their SAFE or Save Animals from Extinction program. They will give accreditation to zoos if they meet or exceed their standards for animal welfare. They work with zoos around the world, not just in the US. All that said, the first attack we are going to look at is from an accredited zoo in San Francisco. The tiger involved was a 350-pound female Amur tiger named Tatiana. The first attack happened in 2006 when Tatiana clawed and bit the arm of a zookeeper during feeding. A year later, a deadlier attack occurred. In 2007, Tatiana escaped her enclosure and attacked 3 men. But how did she get out of her enclosure? There's sort of a famous quote that pops up in books about man-eating tigers, that when a biologist was asked, how high can a tiger jump? The response is, as high as he needs to. Tatiana was able to leap out of her open-air enclosure. She attacked and killed one 17-year-old and attacked 2 other brothers. All 3 men came to the zoo together. Eventually, after zoo workers called 911, officers showed up and shot and killed Tatiana. The reason she was able to leap out was that the wall wasn't as high as it was supposed to be. According to the San Francisco Chronicle, the wall was supposed to be 5.5 meters or 18 feet tall, but when measured, it was actually 3.8 meters or 12.5 feet tall. I guess people just assumed it was the correct height, as people are pretty bad at estimating things like that. But what made Tatiana jump out on that day? Well, a tiger can just be unpredictable, but there were also allegations that the men were taunting the tiger. Another family at the zoo that day said they saw the men taunting lions about an hour earlier. Different acorns and twigs were found in the enclosure that apparently had come from outside the enclosure, as if someone was throwing things at the tiger. It gets even stranger though. Even though the wall was lower than it should have been, some have still said the tigress could not have gotten out by herself and had grabbed onto someone, dangling their leg over the wall. There are also reports that there was concrete under the tiger's claws. like she propelled herself up the wall. Now, the surviving men denied taunting the tiger in any way, but it is odd that a healthy tiger that was fed twice a week to attack and kill the 17-year-old didn't eat the teenager or go towards the nearby warthog enclosure, but instead pursued and attacked the other two men. Again, they denied provoking the tiger, and I don't think they were ever charged for doing so. This was quite a rare occurrence at an accredited zoo. As the AZA pointed out, this was the first time someone at an accredited zoo had been killed by an escaped animal since 1924. But as mentioned before, there are many unaccredited places that house tigers. There's actually an unknown amount of tigers that are held as exotic pets by private owners, as well as in unauthorized circuses, safari parks, and zoos. In fact, the number of tigers housed in these places might surpass the number of tigers in both the wild and those actively controlled by the global zoological community put together. Like I said, we don't have exact numbers, but there are rumors that 7,000 to 10,000 tigers are in private ownership just in America. That seems unbelievable, but considering the large number of animals that are kept unofficially or illegally, many seem to agree that there are at least 5,000, while some sources claim there could be up to 12,000. Some papers estimate there are thousands of tigers just in Texas alone. With all these tigers being kept in questionable places, it seems almost inevitable that things will go wrong. According to the Las Vegas Sun, a 25-year-old man was attacked by a 300-pound Bengal tiger in 2001. The man, who was described as a handler, was attacked by the tiger named Jagger, who killed the man by biting him on the neck. The facility where this happened was apparently operating illegally and was shut down by the police. But even perfectly legal institutions have had issues with privately owned tigers. There is the famous incident also from October of 2003 when Manticore, the white tiger, attacked Roy Horn during a magic performance in Las Vegas. Siegfried and Roy were a famous magic act that performed in the Mirage Casino Resort, and their shows involved white tigers and white lions. Now, what exactly happened before the attack occurred is a little difficult to make out for certain. Some reports say Roy fell, some say the tiger knocked him over. Either way, Roy hit the floor, and the tiger grabbed him by the neck and dragged him off stage and back to his cage. There were multiple handlers who tried to get the tiger to release Roy, but it wasn't until someone used a fire extinguisher that the tiger let him go. Roy was rushed to the hospital and thankfully survived, but was left with serious injuries. A year later, in an interview with People magazine, Roy claimed that Manticore actually saved his life by dragging him off stage while he was having a stroke. I mean, even if there is truth to that, I think if I was having a stroke, I wouldn't want a 600-pound tiger biting into my neck and dragging me around. I think the statement that best summed up why this happened came from a person who was interviewed on an ABC News clip, who said, "Why did the tiger attack? Because he's a tiger." In 2006, a woman was attacked and killed by a privately owned Siberian tiger. She was found dead inside the cage with the tiger. This happened in Minnesota. I don't know why, but Minnesota doesn't seem like a state that would have a lot of private tiger ownership, but apparently it does, or at least it did. According to the Wildcat Sanctuary, there were several other attacks that year alone, including one where a 10-year-old boy was attacked by a tiger and then by a lion and was left partially paralyzed. In 1 year, 33 tigers had to be taken from private homes in the state and brought to a sanctuary. Bringing a tiger into a home seems very foolish to me. I also think it's foolish to bring a tiger into a school. In September of 2002, a tiger was brought into the auditorium of Baymont Christian School in California, and as it was being led out of the auditorium, it leaped over a row of seats and attacked a 6-year-old boy. The principal of the school was sitting behind the boy and wrestled the tiger off him. The tiger wasn't fully grown, and apparently it had been declawed, and though the boy had to go to hospital, he seemed to recover well. The tiger in question seems to have been owned by a type of zoo rather than a pet. There seems to be a bit of a blurry line whether certain captive tigers are pets or zoo attractions, but I just wanted to put it out there that pet tigers are a bad idea, and pet tigers have killed people. I'm not exactly sure why it is so appealing to some to own a tiger as a pet. Perhaps it's a status symbol, as some famous celebrities have owned tigers, like Mike Tyson, Michael Jackson, and Akon, who had a pet tiger named Simba, which is Swahili for lion. Regardless, owning a pet tiger seems very appealing to many people, and it seems to come with some misguided ideas. There is this misconception that I've read online, and people have even said this to me in real life, that, well, if you raise it from when it's a cub, it will be safe, it will grow up loving you, and it won't be dangerous. But this isn't quite true, and this isn't how domestication works. It takes many, many generations to domesticate an animal, and even with that, I don't know if tigers even could be domesticated. Like, let's consider a domestic house cat. Many owners will tell you they will sometimes bite and scratch, seemingly without cause. Now, this may just be how they play, and it's not really a big deal since they are so small. Tigers, however, generally aren't that small, and could kill someone literally in a few seconds. The idea that if you raise it from a cub, it won't ever attack just isn't true. In 1998, a woman in Florida was hand-feeding her 3-year-old white Bengal tiger, a tiger she had raised with her husband since it was 6 days old, when seemingly out of nowhere, the tiger lunged at her, biting her neck and killing her instantly. In October of 2001, the owner of a pet tiger in Texas brought his step-grandson near the animal to take a picture with it. The man had bottle-fed the tiger since it was a cub. You can probably guess where the story goes, but needless to say, it ended very, very badly. The thing about all these tiger attacks is that the tiger involved was most likely born in captivity from captive tiger parents and was around humans to some degree all their lives, but they are still tigers. It's weird to read a variety of different lists and accounts of tiger attacks in a country where tigers aren't even native. According to Facts and Details, in a 3-year period, there were 7 fatal tiger attacks in the US and 20 attacks that required, quote, emergency medical care. I've only scratched the surface of the amount of attacks that happened. There are more people who are attacked and killed at private zoos, more people bitten trying to get a picture taken with a tiger. And what happens when one of these pet tigers escape, which they sometimes do? Also, there is the issue of the conditions these tigers are in, which, as you can guess, aren't great. Tigers need a lot of space. In the wild, they can travel hundreds and hundreds of kilometers, and their territory could be more than 60 square kilometers, or 20 square miles. Now, obviously, it's not really practical for a zoo or sanctuary, even real ones, to have that much space, but it is recommended by the Wild Tiger Health Project that a tiger enclosure should be reasonably large, close to maybe half a hectare or about 1 acre. And the size is just one factor. There should also be shade, shelter, etc. But often the pet tigers or private zoo tigers are kept in much smaller enclosures and cages. Often rescued tigers have a variety of different health problems like metabolic bone disease. Tigers are treated like an accessory, a fancy toy, a cool thing to own, and their health and well-being is an afterthought, or sometimes barely even considered. I mean, many of these tigers were white tigers, which are incredibly rare in the wild, but because people think they look cool, they are inbred in captivity to produce more, which, as you can imagine, is quite bad for their health, with some studies finding 80% of inbred cubs die shortly after birth. It just seems that every aspect of the pet tiger trade is problematic. Maybe some very wealthy people could have a large enough space, but they'd still be supporting a pretty sketchy industry. And they might think that their tiger would never attack them, and maybe they won't. But history tells us that they are playing with fire.